Hello everybody, it's Aimee and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about how to find your personality type, and I am coming at you from inside my car. These are 5 questions to consider that have helped me in my process of finding my personality type, and the best part is that you don't have to pay for a typing session either. Like, these are totally things that you could just do by yourself, reflect on it, just totally vibe out, and you're good to go. So hopefully these tips help you just as much as they have helped me. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I would do is ask your peers. Just keep it super simple. I would ask them questions such as, at my best, most successful moment, what was I doing? How was I like? How did I achieve that goal? At my worst, so when I was hitting rock bottom, what was going on? How did I handle that situation? What was your impression of me during those really dark moments? Okay, and you would be so surprised what insights your peers can give you. Things that you have never even realized about yourself, because sometimes I feel like we're a little bit delulu about the way we think we are, So for example, for myself, when I first started trying to find my personality type, I thought I was an introverted personality type because, I don't really consider myself to be the most socially outgoing person. I would think that I was an introverted type, and my friends and family pretty much were just like, "You not introverted, like you're not an introverted person." And I was kind of like offended by this at first. I was kind of like, what do you mean? Like, I am an introvert. But when I thought about it, when I really reflected on my life, I found out that it was more frequent that I would burn out from things in my life, more so than getting lost inside myself. So usually what would end up happening in whether it's like my career or my ambitions or even my relationship, what would end up happening is that I would get lost outside of myself. I would burn myself to the ground. Like, I would overextend myself for somebody, or I would overextend myself for a company, and at the end of the day, I'm left with, what about me? And this is kind of a hint for you that maybe perhaps you are an extroverted personality type, not an introverted one. It's not just about social anxiety that dictates whether you are more extroverted or introverted. It's how often are you allowing yourself to get tied to the object? And things like this, like, you want to consider for yourself, honestly, just reflect upon it. Also, I do want to mention right here that you want to be very careful when you are asking your peers. You want to allow them the free space to just brainstorm and tell you things, okay? What you do not want to do is kind of try to pry too much. So if they tell you, I think that you're definitely not a thinking type or something, let's say, you don't want to be like, well, what do you mean by that? Or like, what if I was just in a really stressful moment? Maybe you just don't know me well. Like, you really don't want to get that deep, okay? You want to keep it super surface level. Just let them do the talking, because those first impressions that they have of you, they say a lot about you. They're basically saying, this is you and how you truly come across when you're not in this pretty little package called your head. Okay, so it's like, don't be delulu like that. Get outside of your head and just consider what you're like to other people as well. Do you have to, absorb yourself so much into what other people say and just become them? No, that's not what I'm saying. It's just keep an open mind to people's feedback about you. Don't be afraid of it. A lot of the times I'll suggest this to people because I really do think it's really helpful in finding your personality type, and they'll immediately kind of get defensive about that, or at least scared. They'll be like, oh, they don't really know me that well. I don't really have any friends that could answer these questions. But I think deep down, we are kind of afraid of what they're going to say about us, because they might illuminate some things that we don't really want to admit about ourselves. So yeah, I do think that asking your peers, letting them freely brainstorm, getting objective feedback from them, that will probably be your best bet. Okay, second thing that you may want to consider when finding your personality type is the philosophy of Aim's Razor. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of this in the typology sphere because I think it gets thrown around pretty often. But it's basically saying that the most simple explanation is probably the most correct one. So if you can just be as simple and general as possible when finding your personality type or when speaking about your personality type options that you have narrowed it down to, I think this is going to be quite helpful. Like if you notice in my 16 type video series, I don't even talk about cognitive functions. If you've noticed this, I don't talk about, breaking down each of the cognitive functions. I don't talk about the inferior function. I don't talk about child functions. I don't talk about like the polar function, like socionics, and maybe the John Beebe model does. And there's a reason why I don't do that, because I think that in the beginning, when you get too specific like this, you are pretty much digging yourself into a grave, okay? A never-ending grave. So you want to be as zoomed out as possible. As soon as you start getting into like, well, what if it's my TE critic? What if it's my demon function? You start getting like this, you have gone way too detailed. You need to get back out of that. I found that specifically when I was looking for my Enneagram type, because that's kind of something I was on and on about for some time. By the way, I did find my Enneagram type. I do have that video coming up too, so watch out for that. Or maybe it's already up by the time you guys watch this video. But anyway, when I was doing that, I found that the type that most fit me was the one where I could just explain it so easily. Like it just flew out of me. Even when there were details that didn't quite fit into the description, I could just explain that away. It was super easy. And also when I was considering the Enneagram types that were, that I found out were not my true Enneagram type, I found that I was trying to like make it fit. And I could feel that kind of like inner resistance inside of me where I was kind of like, maybe it's because of this, maybe it's because of that. And like, well, there's the subtypes too, right? And, I kind of was trying to like fit it into the archetype. And that's when even in MBTI, that's probably not your type. I actually had an example where when I was conducting typing sessions, I typed somebody an ESTJ, but they came in thinking they were an ENTJ, for example. And their reasoning after the session was that, maybe I am just a quirky ENTJ, right? And again, if we use Aim's Razor, the simplest explanation is the most correct one. So are you really the one quirky ENTJ and everybody else is the normal, boring ENTJ, or is it possible that you're not an ENTJ altogether? Do you see what I'm saying? Like when you think of it this way, you'll find yourself eliminating a lot of the personality types. So be as general as possible. Aim's Razor. Be as simple as possible. The most simple explanation is the most correct one. Third thing you want to consider is, what are you not letting go of? Okay, because when you think about it, we have all the cognitive functions, okay? And yes, ideally we would live in a world where everything was perfect and just catered to our preferences, but that's not true. Like every single time we go into work or, things happen in life, those are situations that force us out of our normal cognition to tackle the task at hand, right? So we use all 8 cognitive functions to do this, but at the end of the day, and I'm going to say at the end of the day a lot during this segment because it really works. At the end of the day, what are you not letting go of? When push comes to shove and you don't have any more resources, you have no money, the roof over your head is pretty shaky, you don't know what's going on in life, what are you not letting go of? And for some people, it's that TE goal. For some people, it is maybe their relationships that they're not letting go of. For some people, it's their aesthetics. No matter what situation, they're not letting go of their aesthetics. Like, for example, I recently gave birth, and it's so funny watching like ESFPs or like ESTPs, the extroverted sensing lead personality types. They could be in so much pain, okay? like I'm talking childbirth pain. And the one thing that they're not letting go of is like their aesthetics. They're like, shoot me up with the epidural, I'm gonna keep doing my makeup. It's like the one thing that they're not letting go of, even in this like crisis situation. And that I do think it is very telling of your personality type. And maybe if you cannot see it in yourself, go back to tip number 1, ask your peers what that one thing is. And yeah, I don't know. I just think it's super funny to watch. So what are you not letting go of? That is my 3rd tip. My 4th and last one, it's very important. Okay. Look at the choices that you make, not the circumstances that you're in. Okay, let me differentiate this just a little bit more. So, for example, I'll have like an INFP and an ESFP in my typing sessions when I was conducting them come to me and tell me about their social anxiety. Okay, and this is why they have difficulty making friends. This is why they think that they're introverted. Maybe they're a little bit more shy than the average person. Okay, which is so interesting because it's like the ESFP and INFP are arguably so different, but they both have social anxiety. So they kind of have, if they talk about their lives, they might talk about similar circumstances of not being as social as they would like to be. But what's really important and something that is more illuminating than their social anxiety themselves is how they tackle that social anxiety. So for example, the INFP will almost find comfort in letting me know right off the bat during their typing session that they have social anxiety. They'll tell me right off the bat, I have social anxiety. That's something I want you to consider. So please give me some grace when you are typing me because I may not be comfortable answering those questions. And I'm like, yeah, no problem at all. Let's do it, right? But it's the fact that they, I guess, wanted to tell me or felt like they needed to tell me that they have social anxiety so that they can freely explore. And they're almost asking me to consider their social anxiety. You know what I mean? As opposed to them adjusting to me. Because I don't have social anxiety. What if I wanted to go all out, right? No, I'm just joking. But you know what I mean? Now, interestingly, when you talk to the ESFP, who has social anxiety, so they felt that they were an introverted personality type, possibly an ISFP or something like this, they'll start to open up little by little, and they'll start saying things like, oh, and I know that I'm not as extroverted as my friends because last night we were at the club, and it's like, okay, wait, hold up. You mean to tell me that you have really bad social anxiety and you just went out to a club? Like, do you get what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, so the circumstances between the INFP and the ESFP are very similar. They both have social anxiety, so they both have maybe trouble opening up to people. Circumstances are really similar. So this is something they both have to overcome because of their social anxiety. That makes it more difficult than other people to handle these situations. With that being said, the INFP, because of their personality type, handles social anxiety a little bit differently than the ESFP. So the ESFP, even though they have social anxiety, that's not going to let them stop living life. So even with their social anxiety, they feel this pull towards the object because they're extroverted. They feel this pull to engage with the environment around them anyway. They feel like they have to be able to mingle with their friends. Otherwise, they're missing out on life. Whereas the INFP was maybe looking into more entrepreneurial pursuits or creative pursuits so that they could find a way to manage their social anxiety or incorporating social anxiety into their lifestyle, into their jobs, their everything. You see what I'm saying? So these two types have social anxiety, but they're handling it in a different way. So when you're trying to find your type, you want to focus on the choices that you are making, not necessarily just the circumstances that you're surrounded with. Okay, that will say a lot more about your personality. All right, so those are my 4 tips, 4 questions to consider when you want to find your personality type. These have really helped me in discovering my own, and I just wanted to share with people because you never know, maybe somebody else out there will be like, oh yeah, this one tip did really kind of break the ice here. So yeah, I hope this helps, and thank you for joining me today in this lovely hot weather. I am so hot right now. You have no idea. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me. I will see you guys next time. All right. Goodbye.